As I share with the children, I'm not generally one of those wake up and greet the morning fresh people. I've known those people, and I don't really understand them. They sit on the porch and watch the sunrise with a cup of coffee. I've always kind of wished I could be that person, but some of us are just wired a little bit differently than that. I'm the guy that keeps at least one alarm clock on in the morning. And these cell phones have been a wonderful thing for us to have because they have alarm clocks on them. But I'll stick one on the other side of the room, and then I'll go get it and put it in bed with me. Just keep hitting the snooze button, they call it. You can snooze it. My choices on my phone are snooze or dismiss. And dismiss an alarm, it seems like a really good thing to do, but I know I can't just dismiss it. That's always my first inclination to hit dismiss and just go back and sleep. And instead I hit the snooze button. So it's not in some of our makeup just to hop up in the morning and wake up and be ready to go on any particular morning. Even Sundays, I'm excited to preach, but I'm one of those who kind of wish church started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I'd be about fresh by then. But that's not the way it works. Most of the world gets up and gets going in the morning. I'm reminded of one of my favorite stories of all time about the young man. It was Sunday morning, and he was in bed, and his alarm went off, and he obviously had hit the snooze button, and his mom came and knocked on the door and said, "Honey, you got to get up. It's time for church." He's like, I know. I'm getting up, I'm moving. He didn't get moving, and he came back a little bit later. His mom knocked, "Come on, honey, you got to get going. You got to get to church." He's like, "But Mom, I really don't want to go." They're not that nice at church anyway. They're actually kind of mean to me when I walk in. They give me these weird looks because of the way I dress, and they don't always like my hairstyle. They don't like the way I operate sometimes. I just don't want to go. So he went back to sleep and came back and knocked on the door. "Honey, you really got to get going. It's getting close. You're going to be late. You're probably going to miss church if you don't go." He goes, "But I just don't want to go this morning. I don't feel like it." She's knocking the door. She says, "Honey, you got to go. They're really expecting you. And after all, you are the preacher." Sometimes it's hard to get up, even when it's your job to get up and go. And Paul's letter to the Romans is a wake-up call for the church. It's a wake-up call for a people of faith. And if we weren't certain of that through the first 12 chapters of this, through the first part of Paul's letter, we're certain of it now because he basically doesn't beat around the bush anymore. He says, you got to wake up. You got to wake up, he says. It's time to wake up. You've been asleep. Now, this is first century church. This is first couple of years church. This is the first moments of the church's existence. First 8, 10, 15 years, these kinds of questions are arising. And certainly as a part of what Paul is saying, that a people of faith have been asleep for some time. And it'd be easy for us to discount what he's saying and say, well, this is Paul talking to the people of the Jewish faith. It's time for them to wake up and see that Christ has come. Now, it'd be an easy way to discount this passage of Scripture because it really has very little to do with us if we do that and say, this doesn't really speak to us today, and I can go back to sleep. I can pay attention to something else. Or we can say that Paul was writing to a people who are expecting Jesus to return tomorrow. That Jesus' return was imminent. Paul lived his life as if Jesus was going to come back immediately. And so he ordered his life in a particular way. And he wanted the church to order his life in a particular way. But after 100 years of hearing these words, they were like, well, maybe he's not coming back for another 100 years. Which would seem like a short period of time, maybe 200 years. And then after 500 years, the questions begin to arise. Well, maybe he's not coming back for a little bit longer, and so the church becomes organized in a different way. It builds a bureaucracy around itself, and that's what we call it today. And after 1,000 years, a whole millennia passes, and Jesus hasn't returned, and so these words